Hello, my name is Rachel and welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk about the misconceptions around investing. So I think there's a lot of misconceptions that might stop you investing earlier than you perhaps could or should be investing. And there was a lot of things that made me feel sort of not particularly confident about investing. So I basically wanted to talk about some misconceptions that I myself had around investing, and then also when I speak to some of my friends about investing, the kind of things that they're saying about why they wouldn't want to invest and what's stopping them. I thought this would be really interesting. I will be talking a little bit as well about this book, which is The Psychology of Money, which I found to be really interesting and has also given me a lot of food for thought in terms of these things. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. The first main misconception that I hear people say is that you have to have a lot of money to invest in the stock market. So I thought this was the case as well. So in a different video, I told a story about how my first bonus for my first job in London was £3,000, and instead of investing this, because I thought that it was really risky, I held on to it. And that £3,000, although a good amount of money, I felt like that wasn't enough to be investing. So I thought that if I was going to be investing in stocks and shares, or if I was going to try and, I'd have to speak to a financial advisor and maybe I'd have to pay big fees, and I thought I would need an awful lot of money to invest. When the truth of it is, really, you don't need an awful lot of money to invest. You can start investing for as little as sort of £10 in small different stocks and shares, particularly now that it's become so much easier with apps, for example Trading 212 or Free Trade. I've popped some links down below for them if you want to give them a go. You get a free share if you sign up using one of the links, and so do I, so that would be awesome. So it's become so much easier to invest small amounts of money, because your fees are either very small or not there at all, so you're not losing huge amounts of money in fees. And it means that because you can buy fractional shares as well, so you don't have to buy the whole share, you can actually save quite a lot of money there. Because perhaps if you thought, I have to buy the whole of an Amazon share, I don't know what Amazon's trading at the moment, but it'd be hundreds if not thousands of pounds, whereas you can just buy a small little slice of Amazon rather than having to have a lot of money. So yeah, I thought I'd need to have at least kind of £10,000 before I started investing, and that is definitely not the case. Also with investing, it actually matters more about how much time you spend investing. So you might only have £10 today, but with compound interest, if you do well with that money and hold it for a lot of time, that could be worth an awful lot of money later on. So you might think that you've only got a small amount of money to invest, but in 10 years time, that small pot might have turned into something absolutely massive, which would be awesome for you. So one huge misconception that I think surrounds investing is that you have to be super intelligent or have a degree in economics or business or finance or banking to be able to invest, and that just isn't the case these days. So I have a degree, but it's in English literature, so completely irrelevant to investing. So yeah, you definitely don't have to have a degree in finance related subjects to start investing. You also don't need to be really super intelligent. And I'm going to go to the book, The Psychology of Money now, and just read a little bit from there just to illustrate this point really effectively, because I felt like the author illustrated this really well in here. Let me just read this to you. So he says, ordinary folks with no financial education can be wealthy if they have a handful of behavioural skills that have nothing to do with formal measures of intelligence. He then goes on to give the example of Ronald Read. So, Ronald Read was born in rural Vermont. He was the first person in his family to graduate high school, made all the more impressive by the fact that he hitchhiked to campus each day. For those who knew Ronald Read, there wasn't much else worth mentioning. Read fixed cars at a gas station for 25 years and swept floors at JCPenney for 17 years. He bought a 2-bedroomed house for $12,000 at the age of 38 and lived there for the rest of his life. He was widowed at the age of 50 and never remarried. A friend recalled that his main hobby was chopping firewood. Read died in 2014, aged 92, which is when the humble rural janitor made international headlines. 2,813,503 Americans died in 2014. Fewer than 4,000 of them had a net worth of over $8 million when they passed away. Ronald Reed was one of them. In his will, the former janitor left £2 million to his stepkids and more than £6 million to his local hospital and library. Those who knew Reed were baffled. Where did he get all the money? It turned out there was no secret. There was no lottery win and no inheritance. Reed saved what little he could and invested it in blue chip stocks. Then he waited for decades on end as tiny savings compounded into more than $8 million. That's it, from janitor to philanthropist. So I really like that specific story and that specific section in The Psychology of Money, because it really kind of shows that actually being careful with your money over a long period of time and making considered decisions and being conscious of your money can actually essentially make you a millionaire. It is possible for anyone. You don't have to have a financial education to be doing that. So if it's kind of putting you off that you don't have that kind of education, then please don't let it put you off. Maybe give it a go and make considered decisions, have a diverse portfolio and hold it over time, and you too could be a millionaire. And then the next misconception I think that there is, and this is what I come across a lot when I say to people, oh, I invest in this or I do that and I do this in my spare time and yada yada, kind of chat, very interesting chat. People are like, oh, I don't know why you do that. You could lose all your money. I mean, we've got our money in savings and I can't believe that you do that. You could lose all your money. And to a certain extent, yes, you could lose some money. I think it would actually be very, very difficult to lose all of your money. But I think if you have a diverse portfolio, so if you hold over 20 different stocks and shares, or if you consider maybe having an index fund or a mutual fund, then actually if you've got that diversity there and you've got things across different sectors. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is that it is very difficult to lose all of your money on the stock market. Obviously it is riskier than just putting it in a savings account, but actually with the savings rates that are available to us today, when you compare that to inflation, you probably are going to be essentially losing money even if you have your money in a savings account. Prepared to hold during the bad times and wait for things to come back up, and you've got a really, really diverse portfolio, so over 20 different stocks and shares, different countries, different sectors, then I think actually it's quite difficult to lose a lot of your money. And if you're patient and don't sell when things are dipping and just wait and ride things out, I think it is actually very, very difficult to lose all of your money in the stock market. And sort of on the same note as that, I think a lot of the time people, particularly if you're new to investing and you make a decision and you feel really confident about it and then it goes wrong, or the share price goes down and things start plummeting, then I think it's important to not think to yourself, I don't know what I'm doing, I have no idea what I'm doing, this is plummeted, I've lost all my money on this particular stock. Obviously you've got a diversified portfolio, so you won't have lost all your money, but if things have really gone that way, then to think, okay, if it's gone wrong, then it's just going to keep going wrong and I shouldn't carry on with this. I think that is a big misconception. I read again in this brilliant book, The Psychology of Money, a really interesting paragraph on that as well. So it says, become okay with a lot of things going wrong. You can be wrong half the time and still make a fortune, because a small minority of things account for the majority of outcomes. No matter what you're doing with your money, you should be comfortable with a lot of stuff not working. That's just how the world is. So you should always measure how you've done by looking at your full portfolio rather than individual investments. It's fine to have a large chunk of poor investments and a few outstanding ones. That's usually the best case scenario. Judging how you've done by focusing on individual investments makes winners look more brilliant than they are and losers appear more regrettable than they should. So I think you've kind of got to consider that if something goes wrong and you invest in a share and it goes wrong, then to kind of take it as a learning experience rather than think, this isn't for me, I can't do this anymore. So when I was kind of learning, I had read a lot of books about investing for the kind of long term and making sure that you really research your stocks and shares and that they're considered and that you are kind of happier to hold them for a long amount of time. And that was the approach that for me I felt was right with the way my lifestyle is. I wanted to research stocks and shares, look into them, buy them, and then hold them for a good amount of time. And then this is an example of where I did the absolute opposite. So this was in the summer before we went into lockdown again, I was on Trading 212 and they have their kind of top winners, and I can't even remember what stock it was, but they had a kind of top winner of the day. And sometimes what I used to do then, which I don't do now, is I just bought like a small amount of this top winner, because I was like, I kind of, rather than adding it to a watch list, I prefer to buy I did at the time anyway, prefer to buy a small amount, because that made sure that I was watching it, if that makes sense, rather than just having it on a watch list. I think if you are invested, even if it's a very small amount of money, I think for me anyway, it makes me watch. So I hadn't done the research that I should. I was kind of just putting a small amount of money into this, like really small, I think it was like £5 or £10, and then waiting to watch it, because I thought, you know, if I lose £5 or £10, that's okay. Anyway, so I did that. Then I drove to meet my friend. We were going for dinner at a pub, which was really nice. And in the drive there, which was only about 25 minutes, I got out of the car, looked at it again just to have a quick look, because she was a bit late meeting me, and then I saw that it had gone up loads. So it had gone up, like, for that £10, I think it had gone up in the space of 25-minute car journey to like, not a huge amount again, but it was probably 150 quid or something like that. So it had gone up huge amounts in 25 minutes. So I was like, quick, must put more money into this, even though I hadn't done my research. I knew I wouldn't be able to keep an eye on it, of what was happening. This was completely against my philosophy of kind of buying things and researching them. But anyway, I was like, I got overexcited basically. So my thing is do not get overexcited. Just research, look what you're doing, be measured. Anyway, I was really excited. I was like, oh, I'll just chuck 100 quid in it. I'm going to go meet my friend. This is very exciting. It's all going to be awesome. Hadn't done my research. Ridiculous idea. And then by the time we'd finished our like starters, it had dropped way back down again. I lost my £100. It was back down at like £10 or something like that. So that was a really quick way to lose that amount of money, and it was really not very considered. I don't know where I'm rambling on about this. I don't know how we've got here. It's kind of turned into some random kind of story time of failure. But anyway, basically, I can't even remember my original point now. This is awful. That was it. So my original point was that if you make a loss, and the misconception is that if you make a loss, then you should stop investing. So there, on that day, I made a massive loss. I went completely against what I told myself I was going to do. It was completely against all of the other considered investments that I had made. But it didn't stop me. It just taught me that actually you need to be more considered. I am not a day trader. I don't have time to be sitting looking at different stocks and shares and seeing how they're doing. On a kind of hourly basis, I don't have that capacity. So yeah, so that for me are the kind of 4 misconceptions that I think people have around investing. So I basically, all in all, I'm saying, you know what, give this a go. If you think that you can do this, you think you find it interesting enough, because that's the thing. I think if you're genuinely interested in it, then it can work. I think if you consider that you're going to have a portfolio that's very diverse, you do your research, then I think that you could do really well. So yeah, wishing you all the very best of luck with your investing journey. If you're thinking about doing it, then maybe give it a go. I am not a financial advisor. Clearly I'm not a financial advisor. I've just kind of gone off on a tangent, and I mentioned before, my degree is not in anything to do with financial services, so please don't necessarily listen to what I'm saying, but I hope you found it interesting anyway. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I look forward to any comments that you might want to leave on this video. I find them really interesting and I really like responding to them. Anyway, that is it. I don't know what I've talked about. I'm going to go and edit this video and hopefully it's not a massive shambles. Who knows? All the best. Bye bye.